You're listening to RideAlong, EMT School. I'm Mike.
And I'm Max. We're two students navigating EMT school, bringing you along week by week.
And I'm Jonathan, a paramedic bringing real-world perspective.
Join us as we share the lessons, challenges, and stories from EMT school, and hear insights from those already living the EMS life. Welcome to the RideAlong.
Hey everybody, this is Mike coming to you with a special message before this episode. If you're looking for specific topics in NREMT test prep, check the show notes. There are topics listed in there that'll help you skip around to different parts of the episode because we know that's important. Now, also in here, we're going to be talking about a tool that both Max and I used leading up to our NREMT exams called Pocket Prep. It was crucial for us in practicing the questions that come in the NREMT exam. It is an amazing online resource. They have a great app. It gives you analytics, all the different categories that you may see in your NREMT exam. And we have a special link for you set up. If you go to ridealongemtschool.com/pocket prep, you can get a special link. It'll help us and support the podcast. So check it out, ridealongemtschool.com/pocket prep. And now on to the episode. Well, we're back. Welcome everybody to the RideAlong EMT School podcast. We are here again, bringing you the knowledge that we've earned along. I'm so flabbergasted. There were so many technical issues right before this episode started to happen. I'm like, I don't even know how to start this thing, but we're back. We're here with another special guest this evening, a good friend of mine, somebody I've known for more than half of my life. Mm-hmm. So last week, if everyone's listening, we had another special guest on. We had our Lieutenant Carter Rowe on the show. So we're at this point where we're really starting to bring in people that that have influenced us in the EMS careers that we have. And that's been, very, very purposeful. And today I'm bringing him my good friend, Brian Santora, who is one of the people that I've known the longest that has been in EMS and who is one of the people that inspired me to get into EMS, just like Jonathan did. But yeah, so I have a little bit of an introduction I can read for you, Brian. You're going to probably be embarrassed by it.
Go for it.
Okay. So whether it's keeping people in his care from sliding further towards dire medical outcomes, students from slipping through the cracks of EMS education, or the occasional puck from sneaking through that dreaded 5-hole, Brian Santora is someone who has made a career out of tending to others. Anyone who knows Brian cannot miss the fact that his absolute love and dedication to the discipline of being a goalie is an exceptionally fitting analogy for his character. He takes the hits for his team, and he lives to make saves. From the very first moment we met, Brian taught me something that I hold very dear to my heart, especially within EMS, that even though you may be knee-deep in shit, there is always room to be friendly, kind, and cheerful to those around us. It gives me great pleasure to introduce all of you to a guy who is one of my lifelong friends, my brother, and without a doubt, someone who inspired and encouraged me to dive into the crazy world of EMS, just like Jonathan did. Brian, welcome to the podcast, sir.
I think you might have found the only feeling I have left. That really punched me in the heartstring that works, man.
That took me an hour to write today.
I'm like pretty moved. That was exceptional.
I was pretty proud of that one. There's little hits of everything in there. It's got some EMS.
I got goosebumps.
I got goosebumps. I was choking up today while I was writing it because I'm like, oh my God. Brian and I have known each other for 22 years or something. Like we met in, do you know what?
2000, I think. 2001.
I think it's 2003.
Was it? Oh,
and
that's
I know
right. Me and Bill started earlier than you.
Yeah, we're splitting hairs here. But where did we meet? Let's put that out there first.
we met at Treasure Island Scout Reservation, which is a Boy Scout camp on the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And it is completely surrounded by water. So when it says Treasure Island, that is not just a moniker.
Yeah.
It is an actual island that you can only access by boat. Well, I mean, you could walk across when the river got really low, but that was usually reserved for late night escapes. But
right. Yeah. Where we, for some reason, felt a little wobbly when we were walking for some reason. Actually, that wasn't the late night escapes. We were probably a little wobbly on the late night incursion back to not get caught missing.
A little hard to walk across a river at moonlight than it is when the sun's up.
Oh my God. The number of times we river rambled across that thing. Oh.
And then we got smart. We would just rock, paper, scissors for who had to run over and get the boat and then come back and get everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. We got really good at driving that boat.
Yeah. In the dark with no light.
Right. We had our formative years were together at Treasure Island.
Yeah.
We learned, and we have a shared background in scouting, which I've mentioned on this show a bunch of times as something that it's influenced me, probably as the primary kind of like character, trait that has sent me into EMS. The be prepared, the do a good turn daily, help other people at all times. Like,
those core values are almost neurotic for me sometimes, including be prepared, which sometimes does not make packing for trips easy.
No. Oh, Jonathan saw me at a couple of classes recently.
I'm such an overpacker. Like, even when I work, I have so much crap in my pockets.
All of us. I am included in this. I pack my car like I'm never going to get to come home ever again.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I put in the car. I have a truck with like a Ram 1500 with a cap. And every time I go somewhere, like the back seat's full and like there's a little bit of room left in the back just because I'm like, well, what if I get more stuff? I need space so I could get more stuff and bring it home. And then of course my wife goes, what are you doing? You don't need more nylon bags or, stuff like more medical gear.
We have a rule in the house now that if I buy a new t-shirt, a new hat, I have to throw one out.
It's a good rule.
Yeah. But before we go any further, Brian, do you have any plugs, social media accounts, or anything like that you like to tell people about?
I mean, nothing EMS related because I try and keep that side of things into that side of things.
Well, welcome to the podcast. Then I mean, like, oh no,
yeah, no, not in that sense. I like this. This is a positive force in EMS, and I firmly believe that. And we should have more of this kind of thing because it starts to steer us away from the old adage that EMS eats their own. And it's one of the reasons why we've fallen so far behind fire and police when it comes to first responders. And there are some places that do it fantastic, and there are some places that are abysmal. And I think shows like this and points of emphasis that these shows like this make are pushing EMS away from that old, the night is dark and full of terrors. Like when you start at the EMS station fresh out of academy, you're terrified, and you can develop some of the worst habits in the world because of people that are suffering from burnout, that don't follow the rules, that are taking the short road to the long goal, that just don't care anymore.
Right.
It's just a job for a paycheck.
And I've seen that personally from a lot of really great people, and that's. I admit I'm the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, youngin in even though I don't feel young anymore, but like I'm brand new to all this stuff, right? So I'm looking at it with fresh eyes, and I do find that one of the things that people have responded well to with the podcast is that they enjoy hearing the journey of like what it's like to experience all this stuff for the first time, because there's a core value of it of helping people and good patient care and. That a lot of the things that we see from our core values of being prepared and just being a good person as much as we can. And they go, oh, you know what? I did get into this for that. And like, we've had listeners reach out and just, tell us those types of stories. And it's like, yeah, I think it's the story that needs to be told, right? Because we all got into this for something. And it may not be the thing that kept us around because eventually it becomes a job, and jobs aren't fun. But callings, those carry you on for days.
So, fun fact about me, I got into this job or this line of work for a completely selfish reason because I wanted to exist in an air-conditioned lodge at camp.
Oh, yes, true. Is that why you got your EMT?
I found my calling after that.
Okay.
Because I love this line of work. I love first response. It matches perfectly with my personality and the way my brain is wired, that everything is new. I mean, you have run-of-the-mill stuff that happens all the time, but every shift I get to experience something new or a new situation that requires me to use critical thinking skills and be inventive with what I have to do. But I started off completely selfish. Like this was a means to an end, and I wanted that air-conditioned health lodge. So
your inspiration to join EMS was so that you could be the health officer at Treasure Island.
Yep. I saw how comfortable guys like Mac and all those guys were, and I was like, I want that. Like, I want it bad. And the camp director at the time said, hey, if you will be my health officer for the years that you are for your first certification, I'll pay for you to go to school.
That's amazing. So what is a health officer? Because like that's not a thing that we've necessarily talked about on this show yet. And it's one of those things that like, most people don't think of when they are, I'm looking for a role as an EMT somewhere. How can I use this certification?
So a health officer in the Boy Scouts of America, or in Scouting America now, was not a defined role when we were working at camp. It was something that was kind of amalgamous, and it was just ever shifting to whatever the council needed. And usually the baseline certification you needed was as an EMT, because you had to be a first responder that had knowledge on how to use an EpiPen, administer medications under the guise of a doctor. And we did have a council doctor that was kind of our medical director.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he put together a short health officer training kit for us. And it was just a PowerPoint presentation. He would walk through, make sure you understood everything. And he would hold your hand for like the first 3 days of pre-camp and show you what to do when it came to administering like life-saving medications that some of these kids would bring to camp. And, throwing Ritalin with enough volume at the kids with their mouths open to keep them kind of under wraps. And
I didn't realize that one was in the BLS scope.
No. Yeah, well, honestly, it's me assisting with them administering their own medication, kind of like we do with the stuff that's out of our scope of practice. You can assist somebody with their EpiPen. You can assist somebody with their albuterol inhaler. Or if your station subscribes to those protocols, you can then administer it. But like the
what you were talking about before, just to set up the kind of challenge, if you will, like we weren't remote. We're an island in a relatively high populated. Well, it's not. It was kind of rural, but we're 40 minutes from Philadelphia, right? It's not like we're out in the middle of New Mexico or something like that. But the response time to a medical emergency at that camp would have been very long, because they literally, like, we're joking about going back and forth a river on a boat. Like, we had to do that to get to the camp to evacuate a patient.
Yeah.
Or sorry, to evacuate or to have a patient extricated. Evacuating a patient is actually a different thing. Yeah. If you the actual definition of evacuation, look it up. It's funny.
No, thank you.
Yeah. But to extricate a patient out of that camp, we would have had to get them across on a river, up a really tall flight of steps, up to a parking lot with difficult conditions across roads.
That's just getting them off the island.
Right.
We would have to bring them over.
Right.
Have them meet us at the dock, transfer care.
Right.
And then bring them all the way back. And they could, curse and holler at us about the steps they have to walk up. But yeah, it was like nothing else.
Yeah.
When I say that, I mean, you couldn't go anywhere else in the continental United States and experience that kind of responsibility, because I was essentially the medical officer for an entire camp of adults and children and staff.
Yeah, up to like 300 kids, or 350, I think was our max amount of campers at any one time.
And we would exceed that regularly.
Yeah.
And
especially parents' nights, because then you're basically almost tripling the number of people there, and we'd have medical emergencies all the time.
All the time. And I was responsible for shutting off bug juice when it got too hot.
Right.
And demanding that. And I essentially would tell the kitchen staff, hey, wheel out barrels full of ice water and nobody can have juice. And that those things were my responsibility that I had to monitor every day, like the weather, whether or not if somebody, and I joke about this in EMT, when I teach EMT classes, that one of my biggest pet peeves at scout camp was always that I would give the opening speech when they would come to the health lodge to give me all their medication, their documentation, everything. And I would hold up a trainer EpiPen and say, this is an EpiPen. If your friend has one, it is not for you to play with.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, you're going to take a trip to the hospital and not come back to camp for the rest of the week because you need clearance from your doctor and you're not going to get it fast enough. And sure enough, within 6 hours of giving that speech, at least once a week, I'd have kids come in that gave themselves an epi shot right in their thumb or in their finger or in their leg because they were playing around like they were demonstrating it, not realizing, hey, an inch-long needle is going to come and give me a lab-grade dose of adrenaline. And now we go sit them in the ER and they have to sit their finger in a soapy bucket of water. And that was my responsibility, along with making sure that every kid in every troop took their medication as prescribed by their doctor and as instructed by their parents. So like
it was almost like a school nursing role as well.
That's essentially the health officer started as a nursing station, and they would have a nurse work as the health officer. But because protocols for BLS got so much more improved, they were then allowed to kind of piggyback that with the doctor that was being our medical director and allow us to be the health officer at an EMT B rate. It's still one of my favorite jobs that I worked there.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff I got to teach first aid, I got to teach emergency preparedness, and these were all things that I was super excited about. And like I said, I got into that position selfishly, and it wound up becoming like one of my favorite things in life. So,
yeah, and I don't blame you because, so, I mean, for anybody out there listening, that's like, oh, I wonder what the moment was like when Mike and Brian met for the very first time. It is a very, very vivid memory for both of us. So when you're like 16 or I think we were probably 18 that summer, right?
Yeah, we were 18 that summer,
or maybe a little bit, or maybe 20 or something like that. Like I used to refer to us as Camp Spackle because wherever there was a hole, that's where we're going. We're filling the hole, right? Yep. And literally there was one night in a very rainy evening where a water main burst, and they took the two able-bodied dudes that they're like, hey, you look like you're able to, carry some heavy things and use a shovel. Go with the camp ranger, like the maintenance guy, the one who's responsible for all the physical property itself. You two, we've never met at this point. Like, I didn't know, this is like night one of pre-camp. Yep. Like, we didn't, like, everyone's meeting each other for the first time.
It had rained all day. We moved our stuff into our cabins in the rain. Everybody, you couldn't stay dry for whatever reason.
And of course, this is the time when a water main decides to break.
The assistant ranger drove over the clean out with a tractor.
Oh, that's right. He did.
And he broke.
Oh my God. I forgot about that.
He broke the main at the attached downspout.
Yes. So we get tasked with, hey, you need to go make this hole a bigger hole so that they can get down there and replace this plumbing.
Because we're afraid to use the backhoe and we're afraid of breaking it more.
Yeah.
So we have to hand dig
it. Yeah. So they send us out there. I'm like, hey, I'm Mike, nice to meet you. He's like, oh, I'm Brian. Cool. Have you worked at camp before? I think you had done it like 2 years prior.
I was a CIT. CIT.
Yeah. And I was there the prior year, but you weren't there. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure we're going to be friends. And then like the rest of the time we're there, we're literally just trenching out mud. And did you know that when it's raining, and you're digging mud out, that it just fills in, like it just keeps coming. It's literally the definition of of like pointless work and insanity. We did not get it fixed that night, if I remember correctly.
We got the shut off, so we were able to shut the water off.
Yeah,
so
we
it wasn't
shut the water off.
flowing
So
anymore,
yeah,
and that was it.
so we're covered in mud, like just absolute. And like the two of us are like, this is so absurd. We're just laughing about it, right? Like this is how we knew we were going to be best friends forever, because we're just like, this is there's no way you can walk away from a situation like this without either being best friends or killing each other. Like those are the only two options I think that would exist.
You also learned how inventive I was with foul language that day.
Oh, I did. Yes. I was very appreciative because I'm from New Jersey and I'm like, look at you. You're a kindred spirit. However, the funniest part and the thing that will always link us together is after we finish this job, like, and this was right before dinner, right? Like it was the 2 hours or 3 hours before we were supposed to be ready for dinner. It took way longer.
A metric ton of mud.
Yeah, and it didn't do anything because the mud came back. No. And we were like an hour late after dinner was already served. We're just trying to work our butts off, and like they're not sending anybody else. We're just sitting there going.
The cooks that had showed up already, not all of them were there. They had foresight enough to like make some extra in case other people showed up late. So we got cold leftovers, which is a good segue into like EMS.
Well, exactly. But this is the moment, right? Like we're covered in mud. We go to the back of the dining hall. We're there. And what did we just do? We just shut off the water for the entire island.
Neither of us thought about the indications or the consequences of what we had just done.
Right.
When we went and we're like, all right, we'll just wash up for dinner.
Well,
nothing comes out of the faucets.
There's no water, and nobody had grabbed any to like have some ready for us. Of course not. Like, why would we worry about those two guys that were just like, digging the island out? And we're standing in the back of the dining hall and we're looking around. And we're about to eat chicken, like, barbecue chicken. Yep. I remember very vividly that delicious looking barbecue chicken. It was probably gross, but hey, when you're that hungry.
It literally was the best barbecue chicken I've ever had at camp.
I know.
Nothing ever measured up.
However, we looked around for the only thing that we could find to wash up with. And we're scrambling and we look around and go, well, at least that is clear. So, Brian, I have a little bit of a gift for you.
Oh, my God.
So I sent my wife out to grab this earlier. This is a bottle of Sprite. It's not exactly what we had that morning. We had, if I remember correctly, it was the cans of Sprite.
Two 6-packs of Sprite cans.
So we washed up with Sprite to clean our hands, to before we ate dinner.
That solidified a bond that has lasted over 2 decades.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time, like it is the thing that binds us together is a bottle of Sprite and some mediocre barbecue chicken, which both of us devoured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they're just like, we're sitting there, we're covered in mud and barbecue sauce.
And our hands are so sticky.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the water got me up to the staff area where the shower worked. It's like later on we went in and it was just like it looked like the scene from Encino Man where they give him a bath.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna stop you guys right there. That like washing your hands off with Sprite, like sticky stuff is my like. No, that's my kryptonite. Yeah, no, I can't do it. Like pancake syrup and like glazed donuts back in the day when I was a kid, couldn't do it. So the fact that you guys rinsed off.
How do you do pancake breakfast?
No, I totally can do it. But like when that syrup starts to work its way down the fork and like get on your hands, can't do it, man.
There's a fork sticking in the wall behind his chair. What the hell was that?
The problem is like Jonathan doesn't realize just how much we love to mess with people. Cause like the next time he comes to my house, I'm literally going to put like syrup on the
coated silverware
just because.
And that's the last time I went to Mike's house.
He lies. He loves it here.
You just let me know when he shows up and I'll put syrup under his door handles.
Oh, we're going to have to do like a little bit of a reunion. Like all the people that have come on and like shared stuff with the podcast, we got to get everybody here at some point because it's too much fun. It's so much fun to talk about this stuff. And I mean, we're already getting pretty deep into this, and well, I swear we have a purpose. We have a specific thing that we brought Brian on for tonight, and that is test prep discussion, because Brian is an educator in EMS. It's why I've been waiting so long, even though I mentioned him in episode 1 of this podcast, saying, "Hey, I got a friend who teaches EMS," and I asked him about this. He said, "Hey, yeah, you do these things." I remember mentioning you on that episode. But like, that is the thing that like now we can look at and go, oh, we have another thing that we have shared together, and we haven't even seen each other for the last year.
Yeah,
and we chat every now and then, but it's this magical thing that we have a shared value, a shared experience, just like we have with scouting. Now we have EMS, and it's one of the best things about it, like that you can have that common ground with everybody that's in this field.
And I have always told people that if you have a personality where you often tell yourself, hey, I thrive in chaos, or, when the back of my house falls apart, no big deal. But, when somebody spells my name wrong in my mail, I lose my mind. You're built for EMS. You're built for emergency services. Like all the other stuff you can learn. You can teach somebody how to take a pulse. You can teach somebody how to read an EKG. You can, walk somebody through placing an IV. You can teach somebody the tables for medication administration. But you have to have a certain disposition and personality. And I truly believe that the people that excel and are good providers were built like that from the start. It just needs to be unearthed. Mm-hmm. Not to harken back to the dirt.
But. Yeah, well, hey, there's actually one of my favorite people in the world is Mike Rowe, like the guy who did Dirty Jobs. So, like, there's a dirty job and someone's got to do it, and that's really this is honestly my first dirty job. Like I've had jobs where I've had to work. Like we've gotten dirty at camp. Like that was that. I mean, best job ever, 100%. Like loved working there. If I could make a living doing that, I would absolutely. I
say that all the time. If I could make a living working at camp where I could support my family and do everything, short of being like the ranger, I would 100% go back every summer.
Which is almost, it's funny because it's kind of the same story as EMS. Like it's so hard to make a living at it that you wind up killing yourself and working so hard at it.
Yep.
I forget where I was going with this, but anyway, so we got a little sense of where Brian, what inspired you to get your EMT, like, right? You wanted to get out of the mud, get into the health lodge, get the cush gig.
Yep.
And then you find this thing that you loved, right?
There are two activities in my life that I have completely fallen in love with. One is emergency response, whether it's the fire side or the EMS side. I'm very good at the EMS side. I'm very good with patients. I'm very good with, treating people and working with them. And I have found that one of my better skills that I didn't know about myself is dealing with somebody when they're having their worst day. I'm also really good at dealing with assholes when they decide to jump on the ambulance, but that's a whole different story. But
two sides of the same coin.
I am able to take myself out of the equation and just be there for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy being that lighthouse for them on their worst day. Firesides, it's just the excitement. It's, grabbing the nozzle and running into a burning building, or, prying open a door, or grabbing the bumper line and putting out an engine fire on a car, whatever the case. It's that feeds the dopamine that my brain craves.
Mm-hmm.
But with EMS, it's the closest thing I've ever had to an actual calling. And the only other time I've ever had that is in hockey. I loved playing. I love being competitive. I love playing at high levels. But what I love more is coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy teaching the younger kids, even the older ones. I love teaching them something new, or something they didn't think they knew or know, in a way that they understand it, and being able to adapt that to each learning style, because every kid's different.
Yeah.
And now I get to do that with EMS. I get to, hand down lessons that I learned from some of the best paramedics I've ever met in my life. I've worked with paramedics that are on par with doctors, like that never went to medical school, but are some of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yeah, like intuitively understanding of the human body and the systems and all the things that are within it.
I was lucky enough in my first formative years when I moved to New Jersey and got my New Jersey cert, to work in high volume, high stress environments. But I had instructors and officers and coworkers that were so experienced, but so ready to teach that even things like fluid pushback for hepatic diseases, like witnessing the reaction when you press on somebody's liver and their jugular distends, like those kind of things, that's the wow factor that keeps somebody from going, oh God, it's just another run. You know, being able to tell the difference between a minor head injury and a major one, because you're sitting in the base just joking around and your lieutenant comes in and goes, what are the signs of a basilar skull fracture? And you're like, battle signs? And they're like, yeah, that's right. And the satisfaction you get from somebody that's so much your peer, so much your superior, who's been in this for so long that like they joke and call them area medics because their medic number is only 3 digits. Like getting that reaction from somebody, like it's like a drug.
Yeah.
So like it's a passion for me, and it's one of the few things that I've worked at in my life that I truly love doing for the people that I work with, most of them. But just the culture, that's what I've always wanted to change. I hate the prevailing just lay down and take that EMS eats their own. I would rather grab somebody by the scruff of their neck and drag them along, say, you're going to learn something tonight, than just say, nah, that's just my partner for 12 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, if it's somebody that's been doing it for 20 years and they are suffering from burnout, sometimes it's hard to reach them, but I still want to connect with my partner and be able to work well with them if I'm going to know that I'm going to work more than one shift with them. But if it's somebody new, I can't help myself.
Right.
I have to work on giving them more than they would get from somebody else. I have to impart some kind of, now, if they don't want to take it, that's fine. You don't have to, but I'm not going to sit there and let you flounder. So that's from something selfish came something that I consider great and that I'm proud to be a part of. So that's my hallmark moment.
Nice. Well, you know, you have an interesting progression too. So like from the thing that started you down the track of EMS, right? Obviously you found I wouldn't even necessarily say a passion just for teaching, but it sounds like for mentorship, right? Like that kind of like, you know, that is the thing that has grabbed me in this. And that is, there are people in this trade, in this calling, that truly want to take people under their wing and just encourage them to do great stuff.
You know where I got that from, right? That want to mentor? Camp.
Yeah.
We had people at camp that we looked up to and learned a ton from. And I took that into fire and EMS, and not in a negative, I know more than you, I'm an old salt kind of way. Right. I took it as, hey, come on, let's go. Almost like golden retriever syndrome. Like, you know, like there's days where, sure, you want to sit on the recliner and watch, you know, whatever's on TV. But most of the days, I want to get up and go. Like, let's learn something. Let's do so. Let's quit. Like, are you working on anything? Like, you know, and that's what's exciting for me.
Yeah.
Being able to like transpose that tradition to something other than, you know, camp.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like, it's funny because like, and not to harp too much on the Boy Scout thing, but like, you know, it's just such a foundational part of who we are. Like when I meet people, especially those that have been in scouting, I always pick something out about them. That's like, what's the one of the 12, the law, like there's a scout law, there's 12 points in it. And there's always one that like I tend to find for somebody that's like they're my representation, or like in my head that's who I think of when I think of this word. And you've always been cheerful for me, and that's who you are, because you're always the one that brings the cheerful moment. And like I've found that is a godsend in this line of work. Like it is hard to be cheerful when you are like just 6 hours in, 12 hours in, the calls just don't stop. And I can say that now. Like, oh, I get it. Like I've had a few shifts that are like, man, I'm 3 charts deep. It doesn't seem like it's stopping. Thank God there's an ALS call that came in. I can have a breather and just drive for a minute instead of being the guy in the back. And I'm like, wow, I didn't think it would happen that quickly. But like that ability to kind of tap into, hey, it's time to be front of house, I guess we used to kind of call it. Like it was like, hey, we're going to be cheerful. We're going to be a good provider. We're going to give them the best care possible. And that it totally comes from that. But your journey has kind of led us to, and the reason why we wanted to bring you in is because now you're an educator too, right? How did you get to that point? Like was it kind of direct, or did you kind of find your way to being an EMS instructor?
So I would like to think that it's the goal of those who enjoy the profession to want to kind of teach, and it's like that in anything, it's the old joke that like those who can't teach, I never subscribe to that, because you can't teach if you don't know. If you can't do it, you can't teach it. But it just kind of came up suddenly. I'd thought about it, but I knew the requirements behind it, and it kind of seemed lofty for, the hours that I had to work, and I had a kid, and, but I had a friend who was an administrator at one of the EMS academies, and we're just talking outside the firehouse because her husband was a member there. And I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? Because we had known each other in passing from, working on the ambulance and seeing each other at the ER and everything. And she's like, so what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just working a bunch of jobs. And, at the time, I think I was working like 4 or 5 EMS jobs at the same time. And I was like per diem at a firehouse. And she's like, why don't you come over and be an instructor? It was after COVID. It was just after COVID. And I was working legendary amounts of hours because the pay was really good. Like bonus pay was like at a premium. Yeah. So like I would leave one job and go right to another. And thankfully I had worked in houses where they had sleeping setups. So like as long as your work was done and everything was clean, your chores were done, you could rack out, if you were tired. But she's like, hey, why don't you apply to the academy? She's like, you have enough experience. You've been at the EMT long enough, and you work high volume. You work Camden, you work Pennsauken, you work we call it the kind of joke about it, call it the Nexus, but it's a little area around the 295 corridor, the Turnpike, and a couple major side roads in South Jersey and Camden County. And I was like, oh, all right, sure. And so I got in, and they got me up to snuff with what I had to teach, and I dove right in. And initially, like I was in there all the time, and more recently, because of work and everything, I haven't been able to put as many hours in. But when I can, I like to get in there, and I like to assist, with all the classes. So I'm teaching intro. I'm teaching
first aid merit badge.
You know how happy it makes me to be back involved with Scouts because of my son, and being able to offer that, because like I have such a much more well-rounded experience to be able to teach that merit badge at a higher level. But like
I got my first aid counselor cert, by the way. Like, yeah. As soon as I became an EMT, one of the first things I did was I reached out to council. I was like, hey, can I be a merit badge counselor for first aid merit badge? I'm not even part of a troop yet, but like, because my daughter's in Cub Scout age.
It's a good resource to have.
But I was like, I want to help. I want to pass that on to kids.
Is she in Weeblos yet?
She's a Weeblo this summer.
Yeah. Don't they have a like emergency?
Oh no, I've been teaching the kids like in the pack, like the stuff for their advancements and their I think they call them adventures in the Cub Scouts. So I'm like the guy that gets to teach the first aid stuff. I taught the Arrow of Lights last year, how to do CPR and like basic first aid and all. I'm like, this is fun. Like this is what people did for us when we were kids, and that gave us a the wonderment and the idea of like, oh, I can be someone that helps somebody, right?
Then the awesome part about being an educator is that I get a really cool cross section. So I get to do initial education for the EMT babies, the hatchlings,
EMT babies,
and then I get to do research, and I also get to do the extra stuff. So I am in the process of getting my tactical response, the TCCC.
Oh, TECC. Yeah.
So I'm in the process of getting that. Doing a lot of NAEMT education.
Mm-hmm.
So, part of that is you have to go take the class, and then you have to get your certification to be an instructor in it, and then you can teach the class. So I'm in the process of doing that. So like I'm now at the nexus of all roads EMS at the academy. So I get to see those who have been in it forever, those who are kind of seasoned, getting a little bit longer in the tooth, and then the freshies, the idealistic, wide-eyed babies that, want to help somebody.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing as somebody who's, as an instructor is there are people in the class that are like, I'm just going to do transport, make some money, and then I'm going to get a real job.
A real job. Yeah.
But there's those that they're like, I want to work 911. I want to be on the 911 ambulance, and I want to go back and get my paramedic, and I want to run on the medic truck, and I want to help people, and that's for me. That's the one. I will teach anybody, but those are the ones I gravitate towards because they're going to use the skills they learn in class. And it's unfortunate, but interfacility transport and transport ambulance companies, it's kind of where EMS skills go to die.
Yeah.
You use them kind of, sort of, but unless you're doing it as an interfacility, if you're going hospital to hospital, yes, you're going to use your skills. You're going to do an evaluation, write a PCR and everything like that. But, the dialysis transport, you're not using your full set of skills on a regular basis. Even as a long shot, you're not going to have gunshots all the time, but you might see it once every 2 years in a low volume area. You work in Camden, you might see it twice a month. But
I think it's so system dependent, honestly. Yeah. And I think this is actually a really fascinating conversation as to what's a great way to build skill set, because we just had this conversation with our Lieutenant Carter in the last episode where it was the exact opposite. So his experience was, working in IFT allowed him to get low stress repetitions of the basics. So it's it depends on how you use it.
I would say that your ability to critically think and use your skills in a fast-paced, high-volume, high-call, busy environment like Camden or Pennsauken or Newark or Trenton, that builds your fortitude for the job and your ability to adapt to those calls. Interfacility transport's great because I can practice getting a radial, a brachial, even though we don't really take brachial pulses, but I can test all of my pulses in the time it takes me to go from one facility to another, especially if it's a rural transport where you have a while with that patient. So I can check fluids, I can do blood sugars, I can do pretty much anything as long as, that's what's in my scope or the medic says it's okay. I can really hone in on the things that I need to know or how to do.
Right.
But learning how to do it in the shit.
Oh yeah.
That's where because that area that I keep talking about in Camden County, you are from front door of patient's house to hospital doors, probably less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's similar to here. And we are very close to a lot of good hospitals.
You have to be able to get a set of vitals, figure out what the chief complaint is, what all their foundational information is, and be able to convey that to the charge nurse when you get to their station. Some places you get a little bit longer because it's a little bit longer of a drive to the hospital that the patient wants or they have to go to. But yes, your officer is right. Interfacility transport's awesome for practicing your skills and being able to do it in a low stress environment where you're not really under the gun.
But it's a completely different skill set, right? I mean, it's not completely different, but
they can layer and they can work one into the other.
So, and Brian, this is like I was telling you before we started the podcast, I just got off a contract with a very busy system doing IFT, where we catered to a hospital system that had 5 different facilities, and one of them was a level 1 trauma center, and we take people, 2 hours away, and half the time I was on just a straight up ALS paramedic truck, and then the other half of the time I spent with as the second paramedic on a critical care paramedic truck, with the other provider being a critical care trained paramedic, and in between there, because of the little schedule we worked, I was still coming home and working my 911 job, and the difference in those skill sets, it's very, like you were saying earlier, it's very, very easy to kind of get lax in some of the IFT environment, but I got to do some awesome skills and give some drugs and do some different things that I would not have had the opportunity to do in the 911 system I'm working in. But that being said, I saw where some skills were atrophying. I started like 2 IVs the entire time I was on this 9-month contract, on the contract. Now I would come home and start them, but I hit a streak there for a minute where I was like, man, I need to practice this. So
I don't ever want to disparage interfacility transport, because I've worked with some great critical care nurses and some great medics in those fields. And it's nice because if you have a 3-person truck, you usually let the EMT go in the back with the nurse and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, I'm almost 20 years in, I still love jumping in the back with the nurses, because they will teach you. Flight medics are awesome too. If you do an IFT with flight medics on board, they literally want to hand you everything, and they want to see you do everything for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They're like, oh, hey, you want to intubate this guy? And I'm like, I'm not allowed. And they're like, no, it's easy. You're like, listen here.
I'll talk you through it. It's fine. I'm a flight paramedic.
I got into the back of the ambulance with two flight medics, or a flight nurse and a flight medic, and it was literally like being in the back of the ambulance with Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. They were just like, like giddy up, let's go. We're going to teach you something today. I'm like, I'm not ready.
I'm your Huckleberry.
No, but they are overlapping skill sets, but they have some different flow to them. For
different
sure.
Yeah.
And like, I learned a lot in my time on that contract, because I got to see the after effect of when we would bring people in from 911 calls, right? Yeah. And then where are they going to go? A lot of the stuff already being done and taken care of, but then it's like managing drips and then managing vents and doing all these things that we don't necessarily get to do because of that short transport time, like you're talking about. It was eye-opening, to say the least. But IFT can be like that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. It can be a thing where you don't, a lot of guys get comfortable, or a lot of folks get comfortable in the like the fact that it's kind of mundane, and they don't keep their skills up like they should. But like my current gig, my main job is doing IFT while I'm going through critical care class, and but it's a very rural system, and we only get like a handful of calls, a day, and that's a busy day for us. But we're so far out that when these people are really, really sick, dude, it's crazy to have to like manage them for hours at a time.
You're literally continuing the circling of the drain for like an hour during transport. Yeah. And you get to the hospital and you're just like, here.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, like, it's a 6-bed ER, and every transport we take is 2 hours, 2.5 hours to a more capable facility. Yeah, so, and I, work with some guys that it's like, oh, nothing happens here. It's like, bro, that's the wrong mindset to have, because when it happens, it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, listen, yes, people get complacent in IFT, but that's kind of the byproduct of, what you're getting when you walk in.
It's true.
Your manager is going to come in and tell you, hey, listen, I got a vent with 6 lines and they're on this medication, and they got hepatic suppressants, and I've walked in and it literally looks like a patient from a sci-fi movie with the amount of tubes they have coming out of them. And we're like, we're transporting that person in a truck? And they're like, well, yeah, because we can't land a helicopter close enough to the hospital. I was like, there's a football field right there. Why do I have to do this? But then, that's when the nurse or the medic comes up behind you and pats you on the back. They're like, listen, it's time to cowboy up. We're going to do this because nobody else can.
100%.
And it's really cool when you get to the hospital and you watch that critical care nurse rattle off everything in her presentation for the patient, and you're just like, I mean, I drove the truck.
But I
If
I
you're
agree
a
with
young
you.
EMS provider and you have that experience, I mean, anybody that watches this show, I defy you to tell me that that's not empowering, that you want to be able to be that person in the room. You walk into a trauma bay and everybody stops and looks at you and is waiting for a report.
Oh my God, it's the most intimidating thing in the
I
world.
literally just got goosebumps just thinking about it, and I haven't been in a trauma bay in like 3 months.
I've seen it twice or 3 times now, and I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not the attendant in charge on this one.
I was there one of those times, Mike.
Yes, you were. So Jonathan got to do a ride along with me 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
He was coming up here, and I reached out to my chief. I'm like, hey, can my buddy Jonathan ride along with me? He's like, he's your friend? Yeah, of course. Just bring him. And I'm like, oh, I guess I have. I've made a good impression here, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. And so it was a clown car that night. Not in the like we had 4 riders in the
That's
ambulance.
such a cake night. Are you kidding me?
We did not need any lift assist that night at all.
Those like that's just kind of stuff I dream about, is having like 3. You're like, oh well, the other person called out, and the chief's like, well, I'm not wasting an EMT. You guys can ride as 3 tonight. We're like, yes.
So it was a paramedic and me. We were the duty crew,
Right?
And Jonathan, so like a well seasoned and incredible paramedic from Virginia, and a brand new like in school EMT student doing it. Was it her first ride along?
It was her first ride along. Yeah.
The very first ride along. After that night was over, she's like, "This is awesome. When are you guys back on again? I want that shift." And I'm like, I'm flattered.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. That is exactly what I want. Like when I have a ride along for EMTs, yes, you go through the well, we don't call it hazing, but we call it, indoctrination. But like you go through the little things like everybody walks in and you give them a little bit of a silent treatment, but then somebody comes in and it's like, I mean, have you guys ever seen Ladder 49?
No.
Yeah.
They do a prank on the brand new firefighter when he comes in where like nobody talks to him.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But then, he goes into this like mock confessional and the guy fakes being a priest and everything, but the whole crew is there. And it's the beginning of like him becoming part of the crew. There's something lost in translation when it comes to EMS on how to properly indoctrinate brand new, like clean slate EMTs that are trying to become part of this culture.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just being like, just go sit there and shut up and don't get my way. It's like,
oh, that is the worst.
yes.
Yeah.
And
No, that's terrible.
Wait many times. And I'm the first, I'm the first person. I'll joke around. I'll try and be funny, cheerful. If I can be, and they might be catching me on the end of a 24-hour shift.
No, but
I want to talk to them and I want them to have a good experience. So I want them to get involved. And like I told you, if I have to grab you by the scruff of the neck because I'm with you for 12 hours, I'm going to drag you along.
Uh-huh.
All right. And if
we're going to go learn,
if your feet are whipping in the wind, that's fine. You'll catch them.
Just
eventually.
hang on.
You're going to catch your feet eventually. And when I see them people, 5 years down the line, and they're like, oh, hey, like I'm working full time here and I'm doing this and I got this certification and I just found out I'm taking a class here. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll see you there. But I'm so happy that you're still doing it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So not to force the segue, but I think we're kind of dancing around these things that bring us together, right? Like they're the shared experiences. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking about this when we're talking about like IFT versus 911. Yeah. Like there's not a rift, but there's a sibling rivalry between those two disciplines, right? Like, but they both have the same core curriculum.
Yeah.
And that to me is the fascinating thing about this and the part about EMS education, where it's like there is a core curriculum that we all go through, that we gain those skills. And to bring it around to the thing that we wanted to all talk about tonight is what is one of those biggest hurdles that we as EMS providers, as students, as educators, what's one of those big things that we have to get over and that we all have to share the experience of, and it's the exam, right? It's the NREMT exam, which has been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I know I just took it, so I'm fresh on it. We talk about it every week on the podcast. We've been doing it. We've been doing a conscious effort over the last, I don't know, what do you say, Jonathan?
20,
like 20
episodes. Yeah.
To make sure that we're getting a little bit of those hits in there. We're talking about how to do these, because like you can't just walk up to that thing and pass it, right? You have to have a good education system that supports you in learning it. You have to be self-disciplined to learn it. You're like to put the effort in. You need the experienced EMTs that help guide you along and proctor you, because and that's one of the things we could talk about tonight is the real world versus the testing. But I thought that was a really interesting concept that like all of us have gone through. Like all of us in here have taken the NREMT exam, right? Every student that goes through it has to go through that. And it is a hell of a stressor. I think.
It was tough when I took it in 2007. So I jumped in and because I was told, and I'm sure you guys have heard this as well, the best time to take your NREMT is fresh out of school. When you get done, you are never as good at taking the textbook didactic test as you are when you graduate school, because everything's fresh in your mind the way it needs to clinically be by the book. And that's what the NREMT wants. Now, that is for your protection, because you don't want to create a bunch of street cowboys coming right out of school that think they can do whatever they want. You have to ease into that culture, and you have to learn by watching others. But the NREMT is the standard, and it's supposed to be the gold standard for EMS when it comes to firefighters have pro boards. Okay. When you can pass your pro boards, that means you are adequately trained and able to demonstrate that training to the fact that you could be at the professional firefighter level. So, and they're not easy. So the NREMT, when I took it, was kind of a hurdle. It was not the standard that states ran their testing by. It was an individual certification that you got to show, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm good enough to pass this. And the test was extremely hard back then because the way they did the test is every answer could sound correct.
Yeah.
They've since changed the curriculum a little bit, and now you have at least one answer that's wrong and an answer that's kind of right, and then two answers that you ultimately have to choose from for the right answer.
For some of them are even harder than that.
Yeah.
Like based on, here's the hard part. And like, this is leading the witness a little bit in a way, but they obviously publish all the questions online so that you can learn from them, right?
Right.
No.
If you go looking for it, you can find them.
But
previous questions,
not
questions.
Current questions. It's not the ones that right now.
Right.
And
the answer bank isn't released. I believe it's until 2 years after that cycle.
Right.
If it's that, I could be wrong.
So nobody knows right now what the questions, I mean, they know the education, right? They know the knowledge that goes into creating the questions, but nobody knows.
But all your scenario questions, they create those for each year.
Yep. And they have to.
Yeah.
Or else the danger of releasing the questions. People are they're gonna study to a predetermined answer.
It degrades the meaning of the certification,
or they're not thinking through it.
Right.
Like that is the hardest part of these questions, is because, and this is me kind of like, I think it was hard. I think the process of going through it is a little bit over the top, like going to the testing center and having to schedule the exam and then go through a security officer. And I'm like, this is a little crazy. But I get it, because how else are you going to ensure that nobody is leaking these questions out? And then you go, all right, I feel like I've accomplished this because I've gone through this really hard thing.
Yeah.
My question for you is somebody who's now had years as not just a provider, but as an educator, is that the thing, in bringing new people into EMS, would you say that's the hardest part for them? Or is it what is the hardest part?
From my experience, both on the veteran EMS side and the educator side, veteran EMS is easing those students in after they're done to, yes, that's how the book says it.
Sure.
But this is how we're going to do it. On the flip side of that, when you have your ride-alongs, you have to continuously remind those students, this is not how you take your test.
Yes.
Do not take these practicals or this practice that you see tonight, medic or otherwise, into your national registry exam, because you will fail. On the educator side, the hardest part I see for students is the psychological, what they hear while they're out on the street, while they're in the ER. Oh, well, when I took it, I failed it twice, or, you know, it's super hard. Or the other end of the spectrum, where you have well-studied and smart EMTs that go, it wasn't that bad. I wouldn't worry about it. You'll be fine with what you learned at school, which then puts them in a false sense of security where they think that they can just walk in and now, not to pat myself on the back too hard and break my arm, but I walked in and passed it pretty well off without studying. But again, I went in as the limit for me taking and getting my certification for Pennsylvania and take the NREMT, my waiting period, I literally was there 12 hours after my waiting period was over. So like everything was still fresh in my mind. So like, I think I got like 4 questions wrong, and then I just blew through the rest of them. And that was the point where the test was, if you answered enough right that you couldn't fail, they would just end the test. And I went in and I just bulldozed it. But I made sure I did that because everything was still fresh, because all my instructors kept telling me, do this while this clinical, idealistic, like by the book, laboratory grade information is in your head. Because when you start running on the street or when you start running 911, it's all going to go into the archives.
And states have different protocols.
Right.
There are some things that directly conflict with what's taught in the NREMT. Just as an example, like in Pennsylvania, there's a certain protocol for cardiac arrest where you're supposed, like, it's in the protocol for that condition to go to an AED before chest compressions if it's a witnessed arrest by EMS. In the NREMT exam, the correct answer is start compressions. So it's like, that's one of the ones that stuck with me, is like, oh, okay, I can use that as a discussion point and something that is a clear difference. Now, are they wrong? No, not at all. But you have to know that, like, according to the NREMT, you're going to get that question wrong if you answer it with what you may have just read in the BLS protocols for Pennsylvania, right? And that's, that it's tough.
Yeah.
And
I always stress to students, do not take this test lightly. Now, in New Jersey, we use the NREMT as our state test. So
same here.
You can just take the New Jersey test, or you can test for your national registry. So there's 2 different tests.
Oh, there are.
Yeah.
Here it's just NREMT.
Yeah, no, you can take just the New Jersey test, or you can pay the extra money and get your NREMT membership through that. But I stress to them all the time, make sure that you're studying the protocols per the NREMT guidelines. And listen, I will tell a student straight up, you're ready for this. Or I will tell them, you need to study more. Like whether it's a personality thing or it's a nervous thing, or I was a historically catastrophic test taker. In front of me, written test, computer test, fine, because I go into my own world. My psychomotor evaluations, I literally had to memorize, like burn into my brain the steps for trauma evaluations, medical calls. I would be so I almost had like a panic attack 2 days before my psychomotor test. I was at Jefferson Hospital, and our class is just going over stuff. I literally had to go out into the hallway by myself with a trauma dummy and put postcards all over them so that I could visually see, hey, decap BTLS the skull, go all the way down the body, like doing all my assessments, because I couldn't have anybody else talking or it would derail me. And it almost like killed me when the instructor, or when the proctor at my psychomotor exam said something out of sort, and it threw me off completely. And he saw what he did. He saw the wheels like ready to come off. And he's like, no, go back to what you were doing and start like, go back here. And I just gave you what the change was. Continue with your assessment. And I was able to like right the ship and go back through it. And I got through, but like, get yourself comfortable with your information with your book information, so that your testing is the first thing that you knock out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
And that's individual to each student. When the benefit of having, gone through education classes, I know that everybody learns differently. Some people are index card people. Some people are highlighter people. Some people are read it out loud people, or they listen to a book on tape, and I can listen to a lecture and remember everything that the lecturer said.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to go through and read a textbook, my information's all over the place.
Yeah, I cannot read. I can, but I can't do it in a long spurt. Like, I can't read a chapter. I have to read a couple paragraphs and then let my brain wander and then come back. And then I have to have the discipline to do it. It's funny how you find these things that allow you to learn and your coping mechanisms for the way that your brain works.
And you just have to push those students to learn how they learn best.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, what's the best way to study for the NREMT? It's individual to each student.
Mm-hmm.
There's no best way. There's just the things that you need to remember while you're taking the test. You are not taking it as a street EMT. You are taking it as a clinical laboratory textbook by the book EMT. And what the protocols say in the book and what the protocols say in the NREMT program is how you answer.
What would you say? So if we're going to break down what the exam is and what it does, and I know this may get a little bit more pointed than what we usually do in an interview, but having a subject matter expert here is incredibly valuable for students to kind of get those tips and tricks and strategies, right, of taking these tests. Is there what do you find that the types of questions throw people off? Is it, is that a hurdle in there too? Like being prepared for the way that they ask certain things, or is it more the categories of questions, the breadth? What are the things that
I find that, yes and no.
What do you what do you tell your students to as you're leading up to exam time to say, these are the things you need to be worrying about?
Read your question and reread it again.
Mm-hmm.
Read your question and reread it slower. Seriously, because
painfully
you're so amped up taking that test and being nervous about it. There are people that they don't get fazed by tests. Okay. I'm not one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it comes to a written test, I can get out of my own head and just kind of go into my own space. But if I'm performing in front of other people, it's a little bit more difficult for me. I have to have a rail to stay on. But when I tell students to reread the question, because it's not like they're hiding things. The information is in plain sight. You just have to remember what your protocols are.
Mm-hmm.
And where students get hung up is they look at the bait that is dangled in front of them as the distracting piece of information in the word problem. You have to remember airway, breathing, circulation. Any deviation from that, you have to look at the priority. Is the airway clear? Are they breathing? Is there circulation? Is there a break in the circulation? But did they mention that they're not breathing?
Right.
That is more important than the giant cut they have on their leg.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're not breathing, regardless of the cut or not, they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I feel that prioritizing those things, they get so pigeonholed and blinded into the catastrophic wound. They're not looking at the foundational dangers of the airways blocked or compromised, or they're not breathing for whatever reason, cardiac arrest or whatever it is, because they're so concentrated on the wound.
Right. And I would say probably the number one things I saw in my test, if I had to categorize the types of questions, the prioritization questions were more prevalent than the others, but that could have been just my particular test. But I do remember that being a thing where it's hey, we're going to give you a set of questions or a set of conditions. Figure out which one of these things is the most important thing right now. Or we're going to give you a set of maybe multiple appropriate medications, for a suspected heart attack, right? Okay, we're talking about oxygen as a medication. We're talking about nitro as a medication and aspirin as a medication for the NREMT, scope, right? Okay, well, they'll often ask you things like, which one is the most appropriate one to do first, right? Like the prioritization stuff. And like that can trip you up, because if they put something in there that gives you an indicator, like they're having trouble breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I need to go to that ABC mnemonic and go back to that and go, okay, the very first thing I should be doing is focusing on the breathing. And if they're having trouble breathing, let's give them some oxygen first before we start going into the other stuff. And then the next thing would be the aspirin and then the nitro, right? So
because how quickly can you go down that decision tree, that engineer's tree, where are they having trouble breathing? Yes. And you completely bypass, because you're so focused on the higher stuff, you forget the basics, like providing oxygen therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm having trouble breathing. If they're talking to you in full sentences, sure, put them on a cannula.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the pitfalls that we run into is, oh my God, it's anaphylactic shock, or oh my God, it's asthma, and you start administering medication before the most basic treatment is administered. The other thing is, I tell students, make sure you know your vitals, because a lot of what you're going to see in transport or 911 is adult.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to know
your pediatric
pediatric stuff. You need to know your tape. You need to know your vitals. You need to know your Braslow. Okay. Like these are all things that need to be in the back of your mind, especially when you take that test, because you are guaranteed to get pediatric questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're always the last one on the list, because what don't we ever see a ton of unless we work at a children's hospital or a children's hospital transport service?
Kids.
Pediatrics.
Yeah. Because they don't get sick, thankfully.
And they compensate for so long,
right,
that you don't normally ever see something critical.
Right.
So like, babies will compensate right until they fall off the cliff.
Right.
Kids, it's very difficult to get that information out of them, or you have the parent that just feeds you everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is what everything is. This is their history, blah, 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 blah. And then all you're doing is taking their vitals. But when you're talking about the test, where I see students get tripped up with is they forget what the pulse range is. They forget what their blood pressure ranges are and how fast they should be breathing. Babies breathe practically hyperventilating compared to other
like in the
humans.
30s and 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's normal for them.
Yep.
Okay. They have smaller lungs. They have to move air a lot faster to get in and out, to get that oxygen transposition into the bloodstream. And it's the equivalent to what our normal range is.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things where I see where some students get tripped up and they blank.
Yeah.
They'll come back and say, I blanked on my pediatrics. I totally forgot what my target blood pressure was like, and I got bombed that section.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why, those are the little things that you have to remember.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, word problem practice. Center on what the actual problem is. Fix that first.
Yeah.
And then you can go to all the ancillary stuff if there's an answer for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you'll get a question like I remember somebody brought, and they were able to remember it like verbatim. And it was like, person's, unconscious, bleeding off, it looks like an arterial bleed out of the leg, and they're not breathing. What do we want to address? Well,
that's a tricky one, because it's one of those ones that it takes you out of the standard ABC category, right?
But if we're going by the NREMT standard, we want to make sure that they are breathing, because if they're not breathing and they still have a heartbeat, they're very soon not going to have a heartbeat anymore anyway.
Now, wouldn't that one fall into the XABC? Don't they?
Right. We don't want them to exsanguinate. So
right.
The best we can do we're throwing a tournament on,
yeah,
or we're having our partner put massive pressure on.
Right. So but like in terms of if it's a prioritization question, priority one is the exsanguination,
right,
and then immediately going into the other primary assessment. Yeah.
But they remembered it and they got tripped up because they were like, oh, well, we remember ABC, but I've said you forgot in the extreme circumstance.
Right.
Add the X.
The C sometimes comes before the A, yep, or the XA. I like the XABC.
That's what I always teach, even though,
which is essentially the same thing as March, like the March protocol in the military. Like I always found that interesting. But the reading the question thing that you'd mentioned earlier is, I think, the thing that, as Jonathan has so skillfully picked questions for us over the last few months, The things that I've found out of, like, we have a pretty good percentage. I'm proud of the fact that we were able to walk through these things, but we have the luxury of only doing a few questions at a time. We purposefully walk through them. And I'm always catching myself and going, what is, like, I'm reading it and it's like, oh, I know what the expected question is. And then I read it and go, that is not what it just asked me. Right. I have to purposefully work against myself and my assumption of what that question should be.
Brian, you may have similar feelings on this, but I always am talking on the podcast about how NREMT testing is its own skill set that we have to develop. Like just getting used to how you read the questions and how the answers that they're looking for in that testing environment. It's so different, especially like you brought up a great point about people going and doing ride-alongs and seeing how some of the street medicine is done versus how that textbook thing is. I remember as soon as I came off of, getting my EMT and running calls, my first difficulty in breathing, what did I reach for? I reached for the non-rebreather and wanted to put them on 15 liters.
Yeah.
I often tell students to use the questions, the answers in conjunction with the question.
Sure.
Because like I said, they don't write the test anymore with 4 answers that could be right. Because it drives you mad.
It does.
You can justify just about any of those questions with the answers they give you, and you spend so much time, and they're not all of them. There's few where they almost intentionally used to make each one sound all right.
Right.
They have since changed that because it's not good testing.
No, it's overly punish. It's punishment.
I call it pedantic.
Yeah, pedantic is a great word because it's trying to make you split hairs.
Yeah,
and while there is a lot of nuance in this job,
right?
Like from a reinforcement of knowledge standpoint, I agree. I think it's better to let the students understand what the right answer should be so that they can go to it in that, like it myelinates, right? It solidifies in the brain. I
will, because we use practice questions that are from previous tests and study guides. And I tell them, listen, look at the answers. Read the question through, read the answers, and then go back and read the question again.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times your brain will automatically eliminate at least 2 of those answers as you read through the question a second time.
Right.
If you're going by the protocols that you're studying and memorizing to take this test, you can deductively reason that 2 of those questions don't belong.
And sometimes they give you a very direct, they'll lead you down a little bit of a path of like, oh, well, there's a 89-year-old male. He's, has shortness of breath. And they'll give you the whole assessment, right? Okay, he's got a bunch of things going on, and then it asks you a question of which of these following metabolic conditions is a sign of diabetes, which has nothing to do with the line of questioning that it just brought you down. It's like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with the 89-year-old male. Yeah, because it's meant to, part of the discipline
that
is
whole
looking.
Thing is meant to throw you off, especially for the geriatric medical calls, where they're going to give you a litany of information.
Oh,
it's got nothing to do with what's wrong with them.
Right.
I broke my hand when I was 15 back in 1954 after my dad came home from World War II. And, I went to the doctor and he reset it in a cast. And then from that cast, I got a little bit of MRSA. And then back in 64, I got the worst case of acid. Sir, I need to know why I'm here.
Yeah. Why'd you call me?
But that's that's kind of the basis for that question.
Yeah.
It's formative from experience that you're going to go through.
You're going to be bombarded with all this nonsense.
And it's kind of just like the word problems you went through in high school. They give you a whole bunch of information that essentially in conjunction, for the purposes of the answer is crap.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do anything to help you answer the question. But when you go back and look at those answers, you go, wait a minute, metabolic. You go back and that one sliver of information at the end of the sentence of that litany is the exact answer that you need.
And only one of those 4 answers is a metabolic thing, because the other ones are like, they're all trauma related or something like that. So then you have the one that's like, it gave me the answer in the question, right?
And then I've had a couple students not complain, but like joke. They're like, whatever computer system randomizes these questions is sadistic because you'll get like 3 questions in a row where it's nice, easy, softball, under like slow pitch answers, knock them out of the park, blow through them. And then you just hit a roadblock with this question. You're like, I have no idea.
Oh, that was me. 100%. Like when I was going through this thing, I was one of those students that like when I left that exam, I was like, it cut me off at 70. I think I failed. Like, because like there were so many questions in there that I guessed, and they were educated guesses, but like there were things that were super freaking hard. Like things that we talked about maybe for an instant of one night, like it's a paragraph or it's like a footnote in the book of like, God, I can't even remember like what the actual condition was. It might've been like polycystic kidney disease or something like that. And I'm like, we don't talk, it's not one of the things you really talk about in EMS education.
Right.
However, after hearing about things, looking into it a little bit more after, it's like, those are questions indicating that you have been answering things correctly, and it ramps up the questions apparently. So like if you're, from what I've read, if you get a lower number of questions than is the max, and you feel like it was super freaking hard, like where it was like, oh, that got impossible, that's usually a good sign, because you never know until you get that result. Yeah. Like I wish they'd give you the result as soon as the test was over.
They used to. So you used to know you passed.
Like when you walk out.
Like when you walk out, you knew you passed, or did you get your paperwork later?
Yeah, that to me, that's the most sadistic thing about the test. The fact that they don't tell you when you pass. Like I was like, I guess I'll figure out tomorrow. Like I was like you, the instant I was cleared to go take the test, I did it because I wanted to have my test done by the time I took my when I graduated.
Right.
I was the only maybe one other person took the test from our class before graduation. I also wanted to go to graduation with the EMT patch on my shoulder because we did our psychomotor, and I got my I passed my NREMT the day before the.
Did you order the nice glittery one that they had?
No, well, it's the white one.
Oh, the PA patch?
Yeah, the one that was going to be on my unit, because I had a uniform for my the service that I was volunteering at that they gave me. I was like, oh, just it's where those skills of Boy Scouts come in. Like I like patches and I know how to sew them onto a sleeve.
Yep.
So I did that, and like all the other students were making fun of me, but then I could secretly see in their eyes the envy of the patch that was on my shoulder. For like, we're all EMTs at that point, but
I was so proud when I got my PA patch.
Right.
And then I went to Jersey, and I'm like, these EMT patches are so much better than PAs,
aren't they? The New Jersey patch is so much cooler.
And they have like tactical ones, like blacked out,
the black and silver.
Yeah,
yeah.
And like
we have that in Pennsylvania too.
They do now.
They do, yeah.
Okay, because they didn't have that when I got mine,
but nobody uses them.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of this. And like, I got one, and then I got another one to like hang up with my EMT certification, like in a frame, and then I go to New Jersey, and my friends are like, what is that patch? And I'm like, nothing. It's from another state.
It's a triangle. It's real simple. The one from New Jersey is like a shield with like it's more intricate looking.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the rod of Acephalus. It's the Star of Life. And it put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
Because,
we should put up a poll. Like, what state has the best EMS patch or best EMT patch? I'd have to look through all of them.
I'm in for figuring that out. Okay. I like that.
We're going to put a pin on that. Like, okay. So I've already decided that you're coming back on this podcast again, and I'm going to drag you here. Whether or not your feet hit the ground, that's, we'll figure that out later. Right.
You'll catch your stride. You'll catch your stride eventually.
Yeah. I'm going to pull you back on here every time I can. That needs to be part of the discussion. It's like, which state has the best EMT patch? Okay, one other kind of question, because I know that we could talk about the exam all night, right? But but out of the different categories of types of, like, you know, the subjects that are in the questions, I did want to talk about that for a moment. And I'm curious what your thought is on this, Jonathan, too. What do you guys feel is the hardest subject for students? Like, if we're looking at like the different body emergencies in the body, right? Like respiratory, metabolic, altered mental status, or trauma, or like, you know, you're going through the entire medical side of things. Is it the ICS system and operations? Is it what particular subject do you find is tripping students up the most?
I don't know about you, John. I find that cardiac and just medical calls. So the medical assessment, the process for that, and where they lose track of where they are in the different mnemonics by the scenario that they're given.
I think that does give students a tough time. Right. They are still trying to get their flow, down with using the different mnemonics, right? So I do think that is probably one of the things, like personally as a student. And so I've only tested National Registry as a paramedic. I didn't test National Registry as an EMT. So I don't have a basis to go on, but I would say for me, pediatrics and OB were the two things that were the toughest for me to get testing wise.
OB was my thing that was like, I think one of the tools that we'll probably mention at, in this podcast is like, a pocket prep, right, which I want to get to a point where we go through a few questions tonight too. And what's really nice about these kind of modern systems is like giving you immediate feedback, rationale, and then it's giving you analytics as to like what's your deficiencies. So you can point yourself and go like, all right, I need to beef up on my OB, right? Or I need to beef up on operations or assessments or whatever that thing is. Like, it might be different for everyone because there's certain things that just don't click for people.
Yeah.
I would agree with you though, Brian, that medical calls and just going through that process of answering those kinds of questions, they probably trip up the most students. When I don't work in the EMT education space outside of or in the classroom at this point. I do a lot of like field precepting of EMT students, and so when I've done some study test prep with them, it seems like those medical questions and kind of that order of operations and being able to read the question and understand what they're actually asking is probably the toughest part for those students I've helped out.
I mean, I have to agree with you. The pediatrics is usually a trip up point for, like we said earlier.
Sure.
It's just not something that, there's so much information when you're first going through that EMTB course that, pediatrics, while it's its own large portion, it's compared to the other curriculum, it's a smaller section that's kind of, I think, underutilized in the EMT curriculum. I feel that most academies and most classes, yes, they do it justice by going through what they need to go through to get them prepared for the test. But I feel that like those, like to hit it home and really drive it home in their memory, it's just not, from my experience, just even in class when I would way back when, it's just not there. And, some places really, they hone in on it, but I think that does trip up students because they don't spend as much time as they do on all the adult stuff. Cause that's the primary focus of most of the EMT school is adult patients.
I will say that makes sense from my standpoint as somebody brand new to all this stuff, because 99.99% of my calls have been adult medical calls.
Yeah.
Non-trauma, not kids, not OB. Like, they obviously add emphasis on the things that you're most likely to get, like, which is good. However, I can see those as gaps in my skill set and my knowledge now out of school to go, man, I do not feel comfortable enough with my knowledge of pediatric conditions, of pediatric vitals, of, OB situations.
Yeah.
Like it's like how much can you get through?
I have partners that have been in just as long as I am, and we get a call for like a 12-year-old that fell off their bike and broke their arm, and they're like, "I'll drive you treat," and like, this is an easy one for me. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna stabilize the arm and I'm gonna transport.
Right.
Mom's gonna jump in the back with us. We're gonna have a nice conversation. I'll try and keep the kid calm, and if he's in a lot of pain, I'll call for an ALS unit if one's available. But if everybody's tied up, we're just gonna, some diesel therapy and
yeah.
But like, I think that's a deficiency that not only happens at the academies and the schools, but it also becomes a deficiency because we don't see enough of it. And some EMS providers, I don't want to say they run away from it, but they're not comfortable. So they'll ask their partner, "Hey, are you more comfortable doing this?" Yeah. I admittedly am not good with babies. I have a baby. I'm great with my baby. I know exactly what I need to do to treat a baby. I'm not comfortable with, my full-time partner when I was at a full-time EMT at a decent sized, very well-funded, decent sized fire department. We had an agreement. I took care of ornery old people and she took care of babies.
I get the feeling that you worked a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't mind it because most of them, it's like talking to my grandparents.
Oh, no, I know.
What I mean? Most of them just need a stern, they're going to walk all over you if you don't give them a little guff back.
Yeah. Completely outside of the scope of everything we've been talking about tonight. Like the ability to like just have a conversation with an old person and just show them that they're a person and like allow them to be human and like honestly has been one of the things where I just feel like I know it's not in a curriculum and it might be mentioned in our textbook somewhere, but like that's to me, that is as important of patient care as a lot of the other stuff that we've been talking about throughout the podcast, where it's a lost art for a lot of people. And I probably mentioned this more than a few times on the podcast, but like that is a moment where like you're giving somebody some solace for the day. You're making them feel more comfortable and you're just making them feel human. As like, that to me, that's the unspoken like satisfaction of EMS.
One of the pitfalls in emergency medicine is obviously we have high volumes of geriatric care. And one of the problems we have in healthcare today is the dehumanization of geriatrics. They're no longer a person. They're just a body we're taking to the hospital.
Oh, especially if it's that assisted living facility that we hate going to because the staff is kind of like,
"Oh, I just got on shift. I don't know anything about them."
Yeah.
Or what did they do in the Code 3? It was
Did you see Code 3?
I did. I've never loved. I have. Bringing Out the Dead has been my pivotal EMS movie. My entire it is on the backdraft. Okay. Code 3 is like the new Top Gun.
Yeah.
It is everything that should have been said about EMS for the longest time. And I love that Rainn Wilson dove whole body into it.
Yeah.
Like the scene in the beginning with the pay scales
over
with everybody's head. I laughed my ass off.
Yep.
2, was instantly angry. Like I know it. I know the disparity in pay, but like, and I literally looked at Megan and I was like, this is the bullshit.
Yeah. The janitor is making more than the EMT, than the paramedic.
Yep.
I was like, oh yeah, this is that was the first scene, or what, like the second scene in the movie is like,
it's one of the opening scenes of the movie.
It's the act 1, right?
Yeah.
Like it's them walking out of the scene and it's like, man, you could tell from that moment that the tone was going to be, I've not seen Bringing Out the Dead yet, by the way. Can we watch that together?
100%.
Okay. We're going to do that.
It's a ride. It's a wild ride.
Jonathan and I talked about it. We were going to try and watch it when we were on shift together, but we wound up being too busy. Like I had to chart like a bunch of times that night. And
God.
He comes to me about halfway through the shift. He's like, I don't think if we start, Bring Out the Dead right now, if we're going to finish it tonight. I'm like, bro, I don't think I'm going to get to that tonight.
So here's what you did wrong. You planned on doing something.
I didn't plan on it.
That is like saying at a firehouse, we're going to have steak for dinner.
Oh yeah,
Was that the
yeah.
equivalent of a quiet night?
Don't. Oh God. Word.
Listen,
Even if I'm not on shift.
We're not on shift. We have to say the word so people know what the word is that they should not use. Like that's the hard part about the word that he shall not be named. Nobody knows who you're talking about.
If I get my ass handed to me tomorrow, Mike, you will get a nasty gram.
I didn't wish you a quiet shift. I might.
Stop it. Quit saying it.
So I was riding with the paramedic that Jonathan and I were rolling with one night. And he comes back from vacation. It's his first night back. He's been gone for like 2 weeks. He goes, like, his family's in Hawaii. He's super relaxed. He's relaxed most nights. Amazing guy. Love him. And he like literally, like, I text him earlier in the day. I'm like, bro, we're on tonight. Like, you know, let's slay all of the illness that is in our town. Like, just being stupid. And he goes, I'm sure it'll be a quiet night. I'm like, you know, I'm new, but I still know that that's not what we should be saying, right? He goes, bring it on. I'm like, you're tempting the gods. I know. I'm like, this feels weird. And we got our asses handed to us that night.
I have had nights, never coming back from vacation, because I've had very few jobs where I've gotten vacation time in an amount that I could actually take a vacation. But there have been nights where I just walk in and I'm just, and you know, I'm like, fuck it. It's quiet. And my partner will literally look over at me and go, what did you do? And I was like, I don't care. I hope it's real bad. And my first experience ever with the Q word was I walked into Nazareth Hospital in Philadelphia as a transport EMT, mind you. This is just after camp. And we left. We had Brody, you know, and I walked into Nazareth ER with a transport from a facility. It was one of my first experiences. And it was like, you know, we were the only transport company that had like an ER transport contract. Or at least we thought that was what we had. And me and my partner thought we were God's gift to EMS. Lights and sirens through the burbs of Bucks County, going down the boulevard. We were just getting after it. We were doing it. All right. And we get in there and I'm like, man, it's empty in here. It's awful quiet. I am not kidding when I tell you that the charge nurse threw a stapler at me because we left, went back. We were halfway back to our station and our dispatcher calls us and go, hey, Deer Meadows has another ER transport. We go back to Deer Meadows, which is literally the distance from Deer Meadows front door to ER door at Nazareth is less than 1/10 of a mile. So you could only put 1/10 of a mile on the distance driven.
It's like the distance of an ambulance.
Exactly. Like it's their parking lots connect.
Yeah. I love inter-facility transport stories where somebody has to drive somebody across a parking lot.
Oh, so 911. Yeah, I've got some.
We get to the doors. It's stacked 4 deep. Every bed's full. This is half an hour after we left.
You did that to them.
I know. I was not allowed to go back to Nazareth for like a month. I had to buy them dinner before they would let me back in. They literally would tell me, no, go to another hospital.
You got off easy. I mean, they were right.
Oh no, that charge nurse, she would not take my patients. I had to let my partner talk to her and hide out back. They'd be like, where's your partner? Oh, something's wrong with the ambulance. And
you couldn't even let them know that you were the one on shift.
She would tell us to go somewhere else. Oh, beds are full. We can't take you. Are you kidding me?
Damn.
Yeah. No, and I learned, I have been phobic of that word. My kids don't even say that word at home.
All right. So we're definitely getting on the ADD break here. Let's bring it back around. Let's wrap this thing up in terms of like what we're talking about with the exams. Because the one thing that we wanted to kind of make sure that we hit on in this is because we think we talk about the questions, and we'll go through a couple of questions together. When should we be taking that step to go, should I be doing a full mock exam? Because I remember thinking along the way, I'm like, should I take one? When do I take one? I tried taking one a few weeks before the thing and got a much lower number than I was hoping for, although it was a passing one. But I'm like, that was just barely passing. Like, when should we be doing that? And what is is there value in doing the mock exams?
So if you can put yourself in a position where you can take a mock exam without paying for it.
Like a full 2. I'm talking about like the full, what is it? 100 and something question mock exam.
Right. Yeah. But if the answer bank is 100 and something questions and you answer enough that you pass,
sure,
you're done. If you can get away with taking one that's not going to cost you money and is going to have, and you want to do your research and make sure that it's going to be the caliber that you are going to be exposed to for the NREMT exam. I always say, take one halfway through school. Give yourself a baseline. Kind of like when you go to a job and you get a baseline medical exam and you do your hearing test and all that, just to see where you are under pressure with limited knowledge. And then do it again when you're getting close, I would say a month out from taking the test.
Okay. So start like as you're with a bit of a runway to like, don't just do the practice exam right before the exam.
Because if you walk into a practice exam, one, it's going to give you insight into what you need to be really paying attention to and what you need to, and like you said, what your deficiencies are. What don't I, like halfway through class, like what don't I know by this point?
Right.
Am I deficient on anatomy? Do I not know my medical terminology? Distal versus proximal, like medical terminology.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Am I up to snuff on my, medical interview, my systems, diseases or deficiencies or abnormalities involving those systems? You give yourself a baseline. This is what I need to hone in on while class is still continuing and I'm still learning, and get to a point where these are no longer my deficiencies. And then about a month and a half, you take another practice exam or a mock exam, and you'll find that you are way more well off than you thought you were in that first exam, because you have to go into that first exam with no expectations. This is just for me to figure out bare bones.
I just need data. And it's not, am I going to pass? It's, I need data on where where I need to work.
Right. And even if some of the questions are shitty, you're still taking a majority of the questions from previous tests.
Yeah.
Because that's where they're compiling these from. And it's making you think. It's forcing you to think along the lines of that test.
And read.
Right. And you're looking for feedback, because now I know, like, hey, I got this question wrong. This was the right answer. Why was that the right answer? What did I miss in reading that question? And then it may have just been, I read that question too fast and I read it wrong. Because that's why I tell my students, read it, look at the answers, read it again slower. Because if you miss that as, was, to, those little words that change the meaning of a sentence, it changes the whole answer.
Right.
So get your baseline, month and a half out, take another mock exam, see where you're at, and then you can hone yourself towards you can't guarantee that you're going to get a passing grade, because anybody can get the yips.
Yep.
But you put yourself in a much better position to really do well on that test by knowing what you have to work on.
Yeah.
There's going to be stuff that's going to be inherent. You're not going to forget, you're going to be just blowing those questions out of the water.
Right.
There's going to be other ones where you're going to be like, oh shit, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this.
I do not remember. I don't even remember them even mentioning the word like crystallization. Or,
I had a guy
I don't know,
in my class literally have a meltdown at the testing center because he forgot the clamping distances from the umbilical cord.
Oh.
It ruined him. I'm not kidding. It ruined him for the rest of the test.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer that right now. Just being honest. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
That's something you got to look at.
I know. Yeah. 100%. Jonathan, what about your thoughts on the full on like mock exams?
I think I have to agree with Brian. I think midway through your class, just taking one to see how you do is
like
probably
a midterm.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have a midterm in class, but one of the things that, and like my paramedic program was like this, but my testing for my EMT was not. The questions that we would take in school, and then the test questions we had on the actual EMT exam back in the day, they seemed kind of different, right? They did not line up at that time. Now, when I went to paramedic school, the school that I went to did a very, very good job of like every exam we took, every quiz we took, it was very much styled in that National Registry style. So, but some schools are still not, and they're doing a disservice to their students, but some schools are still not making those quizzes and tests in the style of the National Registry. And I think it's a disservice. So yeah, that midway point is probably a good time. And then, like Brian said, I agree. I think that, 4-6 weeks out from class, and then with tools like Pocket Prep, you can do little daily stuff where you're not like burning yourself out on a full 125 questions, 2-hour mock exam, but you're getting little bites, getting little bite size, testing in there.
It's so exciting to see how far study guides have come.
Oh yeah.
For EMT students, and I love it. Some people look at it and goes, no, that's bullshit. It's just it's feeding them no. Why can't you be good at why can't you be good at something as a student?
Right.
Why can't you have that aid that gives you insight? Like you said, it gives you your statistics and it gives you where you fall in the percentage of people that get that question wrong. And where was your thought process in that? What deficiency did you have when you were reading it? Like I told you, if you read it too fast, you miss a word, it could change the outcome.
Changes the whole meaning.
We had flip books.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like pocket flip books that were kind of like reference guides. Yeah. I'm a huge proponent of flashcards. I have flashcards. I have a legendary set of study cards that I will often gift to EMT prospects that I developed to help me study. And they're well worn and for good reason. I love them. And I love giving them to students when they start EMT school to push themselves.
Yeah.
And I always end when I give somebody them, if you don't give these back, I will kill you. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I will bury you on an island in the middle of a river.
We know one.
Yeah. And know exactly where to put the hole, too.
Right, and we're full circle.
Yeah. But and just to kind of, I want to throw my 2 cents on there as somebody who recently went through and the way my brain operated with this. I find that I took a practice or a mock exam. I took 2 of them leading up to the exam.
Yeah.
And what I found helped with them, even though I wasn't technically through all of the information, all of the curriculum at that point, which is the hard part about it, because you're learning curriculum right up or didactic information right up until the end. And some of the stuff like the EMS operations, that ICS system, those things don't really come until the end. And then sometimes those pop up in those questions. So those are the ones that kind of shook me in terms of man, I don't know that stuff, but we haven't gone through it in class yet. Right. So definite. And you know what, I one thing we should really mention and just give kudos to anybody who manages to get through this, like a 4-week boot camp type EMS program. Holy crap. I had to slowly learn over 6 months and pick things up. But man, any student or teacher for that matter who can make an effective program where they do one of those summer things where somebody is 40 hours a week for 4 weeks usually?
40 hours. I believe those boot camps are 40 hours a week for 5 weeks.
40 hours a week, 5 weeks. That is incredible that people can succeed in that. So kudos to you if you've been able to do that. But as we're going through this thing, I found that the process of going through the mock exam was like inoculation. It made me less nervous about the idea of sitting down and taking the test and putting the time into it and thinking through the things. So that's my encouragement to people is just do the process. Yep. Don't treat it as that thing that you're oh, well, that I'm just not going to do very good at that, so I'm not going to do it. Find time to put yourself down, in a spot for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Maybe it's not the full 2-hour mock exam or whatever, but enough to say, I'm dedicating time to focusing my brain on these questions, because the only time you don't want that, you don't want the first time where you're going to sit down and do 2 hours worth of question answering to be at the test.
Yeah.
Right. That's my advice.
You want the data. It's reinforcement, if nothing else. If you look at it, you take that test and you get a decent score for your baseline test halfway through class. Imagine how much better you're going to be towards the end.
Yeah. Right. So, I think this is some really good discussion, good tips, things like that. What do you guys say about just doing like 5 questions real quick? We talk through them and kind of just like, you know, talk quickly about the things that like about those particular questions that we should be looking for, so we can give some examples.
Yeah.
I think
Let's do it.
that'll be what we do on every episode. We'll do 5 this week. And we'll talk through them. Hopefully we'll get a few easy ones that we could just knock out real quick. Okay. So I'm going to pull up some questions for us here. Okay. Jonathan, can you see the questions on your side?
I've got them on my screen.
All right, great. All right, we'll do a few quick questions, and we'll see how we do. All right, so question number 1: a 24-year-old male is found semi-conscious after an assault. Minimal external blood loss is noted. His skin is cool and clammy, and his heart rate is fast. Which of the following is the most likely cause of his symptoms? We have a selection here of internal bleeding, B, spinal injury, C, respiratory distress, and D, increased intracranial pressure. So normally I'm on the hot seat for this, but I want to look to the experts to say what are the key things that we should be looking for in this question.
I mean, the thing that stands out to me for this question, right? You have a 24-year-old male found semi-conscious after an assault. It gives you foundational information, right? It gives you, the age. But again, we're getting into the point where this is information, while it's nice to have if you're on scene, for the purposes of answering this question, 24-year-olds is an innocuous piece of information.
Right.
Okay.
But the important thing about there is trauma.
Right. They were assaulted and they're semi-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then we have minimal external blood loss is noted. This is a detracting piece of information from the obvious answer.
Right.
Right. So skin is cool and clammy. This is indicative of
shock.
Right. What shock stems from bleeding.
Right. Hypovolemia.
Right. So, and his heart rate is fast. When you start to lose blood volume, what does your heart do to compensate?
It'll get faster.
Right. It pushes harder and pushes faster. All right. It tries to keep your blood pressure up to perfuse the rest of the body, and it moves faster to try and facilitate that process. So if I'm looking at spinal injury, probably not. And I would have probably expected the question for a basic question to hint you in the right direction, maybe involve something along the realm of priapism, or some foundational thing that's going to lead you to that. And again, while it could be spinal injury, it's not the most obvious answer.
Right. And there's nothing on there about neurologic deficiencies,
right,
or motor, not having motor control. So like those are things that we'd probably be looking for spinal injury too, right?
Right. Respiratory distress. Again, it could be respiratory distress, but that's not the main problem. Okay. And what all the clues are leading you towards. Increased intracranial pressure. Yes, in a very rare occasion, maybe that'd be the right answer, but you'd need more information to make that assumption.
Also, typically, if it's asking you about intracranial pressure, it's going to be asking you probably about Cushing's triad, where it's like, there's no irregular breathing, there's no bradycardia, there's no
right. You've eliminated bradycardia.
Yeah. Right. It tells you that they have a high heart rate, right? So and increased blood pressure, right?
So our best answer, I would say, is A, internal bleeding.
All right, let's click on it. See what we got. We're right. Yay. What I love about these modern things, because we're looking right now at Pocket Prep, is that we immediately get the answer and also an explanation. And it's in the explanation is all the stuff we just talked about.
Yep.
So that is invaluable. Like I cannot stress how much, because when you're on your own, you're on an island and you're like, oh, I got it wrong, but why?
Yep.
The why taking that extra step to look at the explanation of the answer, man, that was a game changer for me with all this stuff. All right. Question number 2. An EMT is assessing a patient with a known history of diabetes who reports several days of feeling unwell. The patient describes frequent urination, constant thirst despite drinking fluids, and increased hunger with a recent unintended weight loss. The patient's blood glucose level is elevated and vital signs suggest a developing metabolic imbalance. In the context of hyperglycemia, which of the following terms are included in the classic 3 Ps, commonly associated with elevated blood glucose levels? Select the 3 answer options that are correct. These types of questions I hate because it's 3 out of the, like there's 4 or let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options. And you have to choose 4 of them. So A is polyneuritis. B is polydactyly.
Well, they want the 3 Ps.
Okay.
So 3 answers are correct.
3 answers are question. Yes, sorry. It says that specifically. Select the 3 answer options that are correct. I misspoke. A is polyneuritis. B is polydactyly. C is polycythemia. D is polyuria. E is polydipsia, and F is polyphagia. Man, there's a lot of polys. I'm going to call this question "Along Came Polly." Guffaw. All right, so it's like all of this stuff in like the lead up, totally not relevant. I mean, like obviously it's talking about diabetes, but it's really just asking you what are the 3 Ps. That's like the thing that you need to know. And I'm going to be the first to admit that, man, when we went through in our curriculum, they did not stress the 3 Ps of this particular subject. I'm sure we learned about this stuff, but it wasn't necessarily like, this is where it gets hard because it's in this particular question, it's presented in a very particular way. The 3 Ps commonly associated with elevated blood glucose levels.
Well, Mike, let's go back up and look at the description, because I think there's some hints in that patient description that may help us out.
Okay.
All right. So frequent urination, right?
Yeah.
Constant
polyuria.
Thirst. Yeah. Despite constant thirst, despite drinking fluids, increased hunger with unintended weight loss, and then the hyperglycemia, right? So we can kind of pick out some of those things, right? The polyuria,
it's already in it, right? Polyuria is excessive peeing, right? Are any of these other ones on here in that list that it just gave us? I think is polyphagia. Like this is I'm just making sure because I don't know all of these terms. That's some of the hard stuff. Like is polyphagia excessive hunger?
No, because we use aphasia for not speaking correctly.
Okay.
So and this is some of me answering the question, like process of elimination, polycythemia, that relates to an excess amount of red blood cells, right? And polydactyly also relates to extra digits, right, on the extremities, right, on the hands, feet. We could maybe eliminate those 2.
I would say it's polyneuritis and dipsia.
I would agree with that.
Okay. We'll check our answer. And
so polyphagia was the excessive eating.
Right.
So the explanation, because we got the question wrong. So the classic 3 Ps of hyperglycemia are hallmark findings in patients with sustained elevated blood glucose levels, particularly in uncontrolled diabetes. And if we come down here, I'm just scrolling through the question. it gives us the 3 Ps. Polycythemia refers to an abnormally increased concentration of red blood cells and unrelated. Oh, sorry, that's unrelated. Polydactyl is congenital condition characterized by extra fingers. That is unrelated. Polyneuritis refers to inflammation of multiple peripheral nerves and may be seen in long-term complication of diabetes, but it is not part of the classic 3 Ps.
Right.
So
Polyphagia is the increased hunger in conjunction with the weight loss. And polyuria is or polydipsia is the excessive thirst. Even though they're taking in fluids, which would also explain the polyuria, they're still thirsty.
Yep. So excessive peeing, excessive hunger, excessive thirst. So knowing those terms, like that's the medical terminology section, right?
Yep.
Like, so we knew those. It was in the question. It's just making sure that we make the link to the scientific terminology of those things.
Yep.
And it's, the problem is that now we're running into an issue of, on the street, do they refer to all those things by those terminologies? And you have providers that are now going, all right, well, we just call that excessive urination.
Right.
Plain
Oh,
speak.
look at what I did. I said I equated polyphagia to aphasia.
Right.
And I was wrong.
And I didn't push back on you because I'm like, well, he sounds right. So, I mean, and I what I want to stress for everyone out there too is that it's okay to do this. Like, we should be doing this. Providers, people that have been in this for a while, I think will get a lot out of challenging themselves to the NREMT, because they're going to run into things of, I don't call it that. I know what it is.
Right.
But that's not the way that we speak about it on the streets.
Right.
And this is what we've run into the last few months of, like, we'll get these questions every now and like, I think I know this answer, but man, I'm getting tripped up.
Yeah.
So it happens to everybody. Anybody out there listening, it's the reason why we want to make sure that we're going through all of this stuff, right? Question 3. Which of the following statements are correct regarding EMS helicopter landing zones? Man, these happen all the time. Well,
another pick 3.
Another pick 3. Select the 3. I hate pick 3 answers. Okay. A, the ideal landing zone is a level area of grass or hard surface that is 500 feet by 500 feet or larger. B, the ideal landing zone is a level area of grass or hard surface that is 100 feet by 100 feet or larger. C, the landing zone should be a minimum of 200 feet from the scene. D, the landing zone should be free of overhead obstacles such as power lines, trees, etc. And E, the landing zone should be free of debris such as gravel, litter, etc.
So
I think there's some obvious ones in here.
Yeah, there's a gimme, definitely.
The landing zone should be free of overhead obstacles such as power lines, trees, etc. Because then it's not a landing zone. Like, that's a crash zone.
Correct.
I would also venture to guess that the landing zone should be a minimum of 200 feet from the scene, giving you the safety buffer zone from when you are landing the helicopter to when the flight crew comes and grabs that patient.
I would bet that's probably pretty good.
I'm going to give you some pushback. It's I think it's 100 feet by 100 feet.
Oh, well, no. So the between A and B, like the 500 feet by 500 versus
I think it's
100 by 100?
Yeah, I think it's B.
It is B. I know that for sure. And only because I listened to EMS 2020 a bunch. And the guys on there they mentioned the 100 by 100 landing zone a bunch because they're flight medics. And so thank you, Chris and Spencer, for
shout out to them.
Yeah. And they always like it when we shout out to them. I get a little text from Spencer. He's like, "Hey, I heard you mention us on the pod. Thanks, buddy." I'm like, "Yeah, of course. You guys are awesome." So I think those two are the gimmies. It's a 100 by 100 foot landing zone, and the landing zone should be free of overhead.
But now I'm starting to see the last question.
I know
in my own head, I'm starting to question whether or not, because it's not a solid landing zone. It says the landing zone should be free of debris such as gravel or litter. Litter doesn't really matter because the blades are going to blow that out of the way anyway, but gravel would be an unsteady surface for it to land on.
I know. This is hard because if you're just using and I'm thinking 200 feet, that's not very far. Like 200 feet from the landing zone, that's how far away you should. Or
well,
from
it's
the
a minimum.
Minimum of 200.
So you already have 100 feet for the landing zone, and you're adding 200 feet to the edge of that,
right?
For the minimum distance from the scene.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm going to stick with my original answer and say that the landing zone should be 200 feet from the scene.
Okay. What do you say, Jonathan?
Let's see. I'm going to go the different direction. I'm going to pick E.
You're going to go E?
Yeah. The landing zone should be free of debris such as gravel, litter, etc.
I am going to side with C because I feel like that is a standard number that might exist because, a landing zone, while it can be free of debris such as gravel, litter, I feel like that's also something that just may have to be accepted because they need a landing zone. But I think it's either one. But let's check the answer.
I set my feet. I'm going to get smacked by this test. I did.
We were wrong. So Jonathan's correct. 100 by 100 feet or larger. The landing zone should be free of overhead obstacles as power lines, and the landing zone should be free of debris, gravel, litter, etc. It makes sense. All of them make sense. This is what's hard
about it. When I'm thinking of litter, I'm thinking of like hamburger wrappers and soda cans, not like tree branches and like broken benches.
True, and that can be old tires and a hoarder house. That's litter too, like a big old field full of stuff that makes it an unsafe landing zone. So
I had a slight advantage in this question. I went through the fall into the summer, spring into the summer of 2025. I went through our local flight services, like Flight Academy.
Oh yeah.
So I had a slight edge on this.
So here's also the hard part. How often have you called in a helicopter in 20 years?
I think I can count on both hands because I am a big proponent of looking at, can I get them to the hospital faster than the helicopter is going to get there?
In an if you primarily practice in an urban environment, how often is a helicopter relevant? And that's one of my deficiencies here. Learning in Bucks County, Lehigh County, we don't use flight. Like maybe an entrapment, entanglement, like where we're going to be an extended time on scene, we might call flight. But in my primary service here in town, we're 4 minutes from a hospital from a level 1 trauma center.
And a couple of the times where I was like, damn, I'm landing a helicopter on this call. They won't fly.
Yeah. It's too rainy.
It's
or the
too
weather
rainy,
sucks.
too windy, too overcast. They can't see. And I don't have that. I literally, as I'm rolling up to the scene, I'm like, oh, I'm landing a bird today.
Yeah.
And I get out of the truck and I'm like, God damn it. No, I'm not.
All right. Okay. So couple of tricky questions. Let's get two more. An EMT crew responds to a 67-year-old woman who reports sudden onset of left-sided weakness and difficulty speaking that began 45 minutes ago while she was watching television. She is alert, anxious, and able to provide a partial history. Her husband states she takes warfarin for atrial fibrillation and metformin for diabetes. She reports no allergies. She ate breakfast 2 hours before the symptoms began. It's a 2-part answer. Man, they make these things pretty complicated now. So part 1 of the question, which sample component, SAMPLE, is most clinically relevant to immediate hospital management of this patient? So it asks allergies because allergy status is the most urgent piece of stroke history. Events because watching television is a clear stroke trigger. Medications because warfarin use influences treatment decisions for suspected stroke. Or last oral intake because the timing of breakfast determines the airway approach. What are we thinking of the sample? Which one's most relevant for what is obviously a suspected stroke patient?
I would say the third answer.
Medications.
Yeah.
Because warfarin. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I agree with Brian.
Yep, because like the other ones, allergies, Allergies aren't really part of the stroke story. Events, because watching television is a clear stroke trigger. The only one that threw me off was like maybe events, because I know a big thing that we want to look for with strokes is last known well. And if we're talking about events leading up to it, that may give us some last known well information, but medications is probably a better answer.
The problem is that you can't know when she was last well from that events
exactly
section,
and
because it just says she was watching TV. I've rolled up on plenty of stroke patients that were watching. They were still watching TV as they were stroking out.
Right. So I'm not saying it's the best one, but of the one that gave that that medications one,
give you pause.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's those questions where you're like, but this one's better.
Yeah, this one's better. The medications one is better. And then part 2, which OPQRST component is most relevant to early stroke management of this patient? Severity, because the numeric scale of weakness guides triage. Quality, because describing the weakness defines the stroke type. Onset, because the time of symptom onset determines eligibility for time-sensitive therapies. Or provocation, because identifying triggers prevents recurrence.
This is where the timing is where it's important. So I would say onset.
Onset, because that's where my mind was going on the last one. It's like we need to know when the last known well is for our stroke patients, and that's where it comes in, is the onset. I would even say that probably that if there was a time one on there, T, I'd be like, well, that would make it really hard to choose between those two, because the difference between onset and time, you're kind of getting similar information from those things in the OPQRST.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at when it started versus, so that tells you when were they last well versus when the symptoms started versus how long it's been going on.
Right. Yeah. So onset is the answer, and we'll check the answer, and we're correct. And we look at the explanation. As for everything we just talked about, anticoagulant use significantly affects how the receiving stroke team evaluates and treats a possible stroke patient. So I love this feedback. Like this is
awesome.
Yeah. Isn't it? All right. One more, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Okay, man. This is another one of these long ones. Why can't we get a good easy one? Like, which is most important? X, A, B, C, or like, like the priority ones.
Way to go, Georgie! You're pulling us even closer towards the sewer. Just one more. Want a balloon?
Yeah. All right. Question 5. An adult patient is being transported from a long-term care facility to the emergency department with an indwelling urinary Foley catheter in place. The catheter was inserted prior to transport, and urine is actively draining into the collection bag. During movement and stretcher transfer, the EMT must manage the catheter and drainage system to prevent backflow, obstruction, infection, or accidental removal. That would suck. Which of the following actions should the EMT take when caring for a patient with an indwelling urinary Foley catheter? Select 2 answer options that are correct. Man, we got messed up with the multiple choice answers in this practice.
Can I say what I want to do when they call us to make this kind of transport and make this our problem?
Yes.
Absolutely A.
So A, empty the bag onto the floor for assessment.
Clean up aisle 7.
It's like a soothsayer of urine.
Yeah, like it'll be like a Rorschach test on the floor.
Yeah, come in here, read the tea leaves on this one.
I see the grim. That's like 2 Harry Potter references I did in this episode. B, pull the tubing to ensure it's secure.
Just give it a little tug, like we did in High Adventure.
Yeah, a little tug.
Yeah, make sure the knot's okay.
Check your anchors. C, keep the drainage bag below the level of the bladder. D, check the tubing for kinks or obstructions. Or E, hang the bag on the IV pole above the patient. Well, that's why they put it there, right? Like it fits on the. Oh my God. So it's giving us the answers in the question. Like, it's saying during movement and stretcher transfer, the EMT must manage the catheter and drainage system to prevent backflow, obstruction, infection, or accidental removal. It literally is the last part of the question. And then there's 2 of these that fit within that exact thing that it tells you that you're looking for.
Yank on the tubing to make sure it's in place.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, in all honesty, keep the bag below the level of the bladder.
Right.
And then you're going to check your tubing for kinks and obstructions.
Yeah. Right.
I agree.
Because they're right here during movement and transfer. Prevent backflow. So that's why we don't put it above the patient. And prevent obstruction. We're making sure that it's not kinked. So it's like, this is one of those ones where it's like, it's a long read, but then you're like, oh, it's right there. It's telling you in the question.
Yep.
So we'll check that answer, and we're correct. Yay!
Brian, I want you to know that when you just said, "Oh yeah, definitely yank the yank on it," that you've definitely channeled the spirit of Max, even though he is not here with us. That Max would have said the exact same thing.
He's gonna listen to this interview and he's gonna be like, "I like this Brian guy." All right, so we had 5 questions. 2 out of the 5 tripped us up. Right.
Yes.
And if we're looking at this from a statistics standpoint, what can we look at in here and say, okay, we can get better at these things? I would point to medical terminology, which again is very hard because unless your education and your particular curriculum went through and presented like the 3 Ps of hyperglycemia as the 3 Ps of hyperglycemia, it's harder to know that off the top of your head as those medical terms, right?
Then it gives you somewhere to start. Like maybe you were not as proficient in medical terminology as you thought you were.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to go back through. And again, you could make 1,000 index cards on medical terminology alone, but you have to kind of look at, okay, what do I think is going to be important on the test? And if I can just get a general understanding of a majority of the medical terminology glossary, so that I'd be able to pick apart a word and answer that better. Because look at to try and answer that question, we were trying to break down the words, and that's where they always used to say for SATs, take Latin.
Yes.
So you can know that the foundation of the word. Well, there's a basis to that in medical terminology. You can look at.
You use the Greek.
Yeah.
The Greek word for urea or for urine. Put some Windex on it. There's a hole in this cake.
Will you two get a room, please? I've been sitting here this entire podcast. I can tell you guys are BFFs.
This is what camp used to be like. We just sit and make each other fucking laugh for hours on end.
Every time we get together, I don't laugh this much all year long. And like the 3 times that we get together with all our camp buddies, it's 12 hours of nonstop laughing. Most of it's just self-deprecating or making fun of each other.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's very related to EMS. Like we just make fun of each other.
Yeah, or talk about the insane things we used to do.
Yep.
Which now that I'm in a job in safety, I'm like my past life before I found Safety Jesus. I was not that person. I was the Antichrist.
And then the other one that tripped us up
operations,
which is. Yeah. Really just one that I think is underemphasized with a lot of stuff, especially details over something that happens low frequency.
Yeah.
And that is setting up landing zones.
So, and I will comment on this, is that we try and do the best we can as students to prepare for these tests, right? None of us you get into this line of work because you're an alpha personality. You're an A personality. You learn to take charge. You do not like doing things wrong. Okay. But as a student, you have to expect that you're going to get something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very few and far between that somebody gets a perfect score on a test the first time around. Right.
Yep.
So there are going to be questions that trip you up. There are going to be questions where like, I don't remember going over that in class, or it was barely touched on in a 30-second like anecdote.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But you have to be able to move past that and be a goldfish, to quote, Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Be a goldfish. If you got a question wrong and you got it wrong, do not beat yourself up. I've seen it happen. I told you, the cord clamp. He lost his mind for the rest of the test and bombed because he was so focused on getting that one question wrong.
Yep.
That he didn't allow himself to get the rest of them right.
Did you ever see that? You've seen the movie The Replacements, right?
Yep.
One of my favorite parts of that movie is the coach standing up in front of the whole team of the football players, and he's like, what's the thing that scares you most? Everyone's like clowns, or like, commitment. And then like Keanu Reeves pops up and goes quicksand, and everyone goes, yeah, quicksand's terrifying. And it's like, no, the idea of quicksand, like that thing where you make one mistake and then it just sucks you in and sucks you in and sucks you in. And that's something that is so hard to not focus on. And like, okay, 2 out of 5 questions. Sure. This is probably not, I know this isn't the showing that I would want to have. And we've run into these types of nights when we're doing this test prep stuff.
But you can look back at those questions and say, we didn't get the whole question wrong.
Right. Yeah. We're good. We're doing good thinking.
Right.
We did some things right. And then you have to also remember that it's an average, right? Yeah. Like if we did this as a 20 question run, we would have a much better
cross section of percentages.
Yeah. We would likely have a passing grade.
Yeah.
Whereas 2 out of 5 is like, what is that? That's 60%, right? So
yeah.
That's not passing NREMT, but you don't get 5 questions and that's all you get.
Right.
You have to average it over the time of, well, let me do 10, let me do 15, let me do 20. Let me do it every single day and let me see how my trend is doing.
And when I have students that come back to us and they say like, man, I barely passed, or, I was so close, I think I'm going to get it next time. Mm-hmm. But the ones that say like, I barely passed, and they're beating themselves up over not getting a great score, a 90 or a 99 or 100 or, an 89. My response is, and again, we don't want to, praise a culture of underachievers, but what do you call a doctor that got a C in medical school?
Doctor.
What do you call an EMT that got an 80 on their test?
An EMT.
An EMT. I know plenty of people that are not fantastic written test takers, but they're phenomenal EMTs and paramedics.
Yeah.
I know, and I've done it on recertification classes. I know people that when they take the test, they have anxiety attacks and they know the answers, but because it's written on a piece of paper and there's a grade attached to it, they lose their mind.
Yep.
So when, somebody comes to me and says, oh man, Brian, I don't think I did well on that test. Do you think you passed? Yeah. You can learn everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be perfect on those tests. You have to pass and then run the crucible of learning everything else. You'll never not learn in EMS. It's like anything else. You'll always learn something new. Even master carpenters learn new techniques, right?
I would say I will disagree with you only in one aspect. You will not learn if you don't think you can learn.
I agree.
Yeah, like those you have to keep an open mind.
Yeah. If you get to the point where I passed my test, I don't need to learn anything else. I know what I need to know. And that does happen in this line of work. People get out of school and they're like, well, I'm just going to do transport. It's a job. I don't care. I'm just going to drive.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but you're just an ambulance driver.
Mm-hmm.
You could be more. You have the skills. You have the knowledge. It's in there. It'll atrophy and be harder to remember, but like it'll come back if you work at it. But if you just let your education die, then it's not, why was it worth it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But if you continue past, you get your passing grade. Maybe you didn't do great on the test. Maybe you barely passed the psychomotor. Like you got through it by the skin of your teeth. That's okay. You're allowed to almost fail. You're allowed to fail. But if you know that you can do this, and in classroom, you know the information, and you just know that is your weakness, that is your Achilles heel, is being on that, being at that test and losing your brain.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of people at higher positions that have done more, that have barely passed a test. And there will be plenty of people after you that are the same way. You can get through that test, get your certification, and learn, and get better. Okay. It sometimes is the driving force to people advancing in this career. I want to be better. I want to not be at that level where I don't ever want to make that. I don't ever want to feel that again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. I think that is a great kind of parting thought. Unless you got anything else you want to throw out to students out there and new providers, people listening to the show?
Listen twice as much as you talk.
Mm.
It goes across the board and everything 911 related. Dispatchers, cops, firefighters, EMTs. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying to keep your mouth shut. You want to make sure that the people around you know that you have a personality and that you're somebody that they want to work with and they can trust. But you also want to listen to the people that have been out on the street for a long time. You'll get pretty good at figuring out who's full of shit and who is just going through the motions and who actually cares. That becomes readily evident the minute that the tones drop. But you have to figure out who that is and where you want to be in that system. So listen twice as much as you talk.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I mean, I cannot agree more, because it's been very helpful to just listen as much as I could, especially from good friends, trusted mentors, the ones that you feel get the right feelings from, that are leading you in the right direction. Listen to them. I can only speak from experience by saying I've done that with two of my good friends, and I'm absolutely honored to be able to do this stuff with them. So find your peer group, find those people that help you, and latch on like a remora on the belly of a shark. Like, don't let them go, because they are the ones that will guide you in the right direction. But thank you, sir. Thank you, Brian, for coming on the show and for being a great and trusted friend, and for doing what you do for students.
You're going to make Jonathan really jealous.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so. He's already kind of in his feels about just being a third wheel.
Well, here's the thing that's happening with Jonathan. I keep introducing him to people that he's like, oh, that dude's awesome.
Yeah.
So
we'll exchange numbers when we get offline.
My plan is I keep introducing him to awesome people up here, so he's like, I gotta move to Pennsylvania.
What a coincidence, because I'll be over here too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that crew?
Oh,
we could start our own ambulance service.
I don't know if any municipality could handle it.
I have quite a few officer level certifications. Just saying.
And we can make it happen.
I look really good in a white shirt and a gold badge.
You know what we call those, Brian? We call them brass holes.
All right. Well, let's end it there. We're going to bring Brian back. I'm sure of it. I won't be satisfied until he's here again. So, thank you all for listening, for going through this with us. Hopefully you'll get some inspiration, some encouragement from test taking strategies and seeing, how it's done, right? Like what are the challenges that you will see and that affect everyone, to know that you're not alone, that we're there with you, and we understand how hard that can be, and just how much of an achievement it is for you guys when you get there. So thank you for taking the journey with us, and we'll see you next time on the Ride Along. This podcast is for educational and storytelling purposes only. It is not medical advice or official EMT training. Always follow your accredited instructors and local protocols.
Heartbeats racing in